else, just type in the.
Okay.
Hello, good morning and happy Thursday. We're here with new streaming network, home of Going Solo, Going Bold, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. Welcome to your Health Vibes with Elana. I'm your host of your Health Vibes with Elana. And my journey is to raise your heart, body, and soul vibes to the next level so you can transform your life today. And today we are creating impact for the next generation with the one, the only, my soul sister, my love, Chris Dyer.
Hey, sisters you didn't know you needed. I
um,
love it.
all right, Chris, I would love for you to let the world kind of know who you are because I know who you are and I want the world to get to know who you are as well.
Oh my gosh. What are what are we not? I mean,
Right.
we are limitless beings of love and light. And so everything else is just kind of window dressing.
I love
I call I try on a lot of different words, monikers, identities, things like that. And, you know, I kind of shift it day to day. So maybe it leaves people confusing, but that's okay. That's all right as a creative, a conscious co-creator to just be in the now, be present. But I identify as a kind of a spiritual cross trainer. I work with entrepreneurs, making sure that all of their dimensions are being nurtured and loved on while they're growing a business, so they have the sustainability and the success. So it's been a lifetime of work and unpacking and observing within myself, doing my own self-healing, my own self-work, being in alignment and integrity with me so that I can show up and be that mirror for other amazing healers and teachers that we have the privilege to work with. So thank you, Elana, for allowing me to be in your space today.
Oh, I love that you're in my space and you know how much I love you. And Chris is an amazing example of a woman who shows up, who keeps her commitment, who mirrors you, who shows up for you. And I just love what you stand for. I love that every day could be different. I love how you are constantly working on yourself and showing up for who you are. And it's such a beautiful thing. So thank you for showing up for the world because we need more Chris's out there.
Oh, well, thank you. And it's a everyday non-negotiable grounding yourself so that you can show up and be who you need to be for yourself and for the other people that we're serving. Every day is an opportunity to serve, even if it's one person.
I love that. And I think that's why we get along so well is like I feel my purpose on earth is to serve as well. Yay, Joe. Let's give a shout out to Joe. Joe is another amazing woman. Go, Joe. Go, Joe. Good
Go,
afternoon.
Joe.
Well, for me, good afternoon to you, but it's still morning for us. Chris, I was wondering, has this always been your path? Is this something that you have always kind of stood for? Can you maybe tell us your story or maybe your journey of kind of how you kind of came to where you're at or where you've started?
Well, yes. And when all of us take the time to unpack the path and the lessons, the education, the wisdom, all the things, and use perspective and perception as a tool to edit old stories. Yes, this has been my path my entire life. Did I always trust this path? Did I always know it was my path? No, I did not. And there's, a very important segment of that I'm sure we'll go into. My calling is understanding that we are all gods and goddesses with amnesia, and we do this work to remember who we are because we have forgotten, right? The world has been programming us and conditioning us to behave in such a way that allows us to show up in a way that's maybe not in our alignment or authenticity, right? We've been taught that you need something outside of you to be whole or be complete, or right. I mean, that's marketing, that's capitalism, that's consumerism. That's just the container that we've been brought up in our various generations. So I want to keep the vibration of the conversation high, and just focus what I do know about myself, and in the story and the lifeline is I've always had courage, and I've always been a can-do girl.
Oh, I love that.
So those two, everything's going to be alliteration with the letter C, right? There's a pattern here. but that's the human brain. The human brain defaults to looking for patterns, and a lot of people don't stop, give themselves time to think, reflect on the trajectory of their lifeline and their path. So hi, Diana.
Hi, Diana. Love you.
So, we're all in the similar space. And once you get to a point, it's like, oh, I can breathe now. I know who I am. I know why I'm here. And it's been there under my nose the entire time. Now that's where you get to create with rapid speed. That's when you know you're in your alignment, your authenticity. You speak with clarity and conviction, and this is what I came here for. And so now I know Diana's going to appreciate this, because it's living in that soul path and that journey that attracts it attracts other sisters and brothers, if you will. We're all in a collective consciousness here. We're linking arms, doing the work. Healers and teachers are the leaders of the future. And I know you heard me say that before. And that's,
maybe you can expand on that a little bit of, when you're wanting to create that impact, and you have such a big impact. Can you maybe kind of reach on that a little bit?
Sure. I came from healthcare. That was my background. That was my education and my expertise, a couple decades ago. And everything you've ever invested in, you've engaged with, you've participated in, you own that wisdom. That's never lost. You always carry that with you. So when we start something new, you're never starting at zero, because we were actually born with a book of wisdom. It's up to us to be willing to open the book, read the pages, edit the pages sometimes as necessary, to understand and glean what the universe is giving us to show up with. And then of course, there's always education, there's skill stacking, there's leadership, there's character building, there's living in understanding what our value system is. Because if we're not in alignment with our values, how can we be in alignment and be truly authentic with how we show up? And, I've been an entrepreneur probably since 2005, but interestingly, I didn't identify as an entrepreneur. I was just showing up. I was a work at home mom. I left the healthcare profession full time in 2005. And my favorite tagline is, I retired from healthcare to become the healthiest version of myself. Right.
I love that.
Isn't that an irony, right? And now that we're looking at decades out of still how our society is surviving and thriving. A lot of people are clearly in survival mode.
Yes.
Part of our journey, how you and I are very well connected and understand each other as soul sisters, is how fitness has been a tremendous asset and tool to teach people how to move their bodies and feel vibrant. And our physicality is a tool that we were given, and our bodies are vessels and tools to use for our health and well-being. And we get to teach people how to move in a safe, effective, functional manner that allows them to do it sustainably throughout their entire life. CrossFit was never in my deck of cards, just saying, never written in my book of wisdom. That's great if that's your thing. However, I have some very dear friends who were former Olympians in training, and their bodies took the beating of all that repetitive motion and jarring and multiple surgeries. And so perspective is everything. And I working with a personal trainer with women of all different ages and phases of life, but also silver sneakers. That's the older demographic. But you know what? Those individuals they were so appreciative of the love and meeting them where they are, and playing music that was reminiscent of their happy times and happy days. And you create that experience for them, because it is about them. But also, as the teacher, we get to be the student while we're on the stage, because we're paying attention to human behavior. We're watching and observing how people walk into the room. How do they set their equipment up? How do they move their bodies with ease and balance and coordination. And you and I understand these are all things that decline as we get older. So that's why being in tune with our physicality and moving all the time within our capacity. Like, as you know, you were very helpful. I had a knee injury that just took me out in October, and you were my savior there, coming to my rescue and helping me get from point A to point B. But here's the thing is like that was a universal education moment for me, to have compassion for other people that are also struggling with their physicality. And so again, going back to that can do, what can I do? What am I willing to do? So I've had to learn to move my body differently, but to still keep moving. Right. And so instead there's no more sprinting. There's a little scuttling.
There's
right?
not.
There's walking. Right? Here's the thing. There's so many things that our bodies are capable of doing if we're just willing to allow ourselves to experiment and explore. There's so many modalities out there, but I'm gonna share a funny story and about perspective. And I think I've shared this with you. I was in a silver sneaker class. This is a couple of years ago when I was still in Colorado.
Yeah.
The finished with the class, and there was this one particular woman, and she was a regular, and she's one of these women that does multiple classes back to back because she's got that stamina, she's got that energy, and you just pay attention because she's been moving her body her whole life. And the more consistently that we move, the longer we'll continue to move and keep that independence, right? Movement equals future independence, right? So let that lock into your listeners' ears.
Wait, say it again one more time, real loud and proud.
Movement is future independence.
Hear that, audience? You hear
move
it?
today so you can move tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And so her name was Star. You're going to love this. I mean, that's just the icing on the cake.
Yes,
her name was Star. She was very, very, I'll say fit and fabulous. And she loved to move, clearly, and did it very well. And so she came up to me at the end of one class, and she's so excited. She's like, Chris, I couldn't wait to tell you, I just signed up for pole dancing lessons. This woman is 75 years old. It's like, yes, that's who I want to be.
Boom.
Boom. There it is. It's like everything in life is a choice.
Yes.
This or that. Which would I rather have? Well, I'm going to model Star. I'm going to keep moving my body. I'm going to enjoy life and engage and dance and play and get outdoors. And it's all about choices. And, I've done a lot of coaching certifications. And one of the spiritual teachers, we did a business breakthrough boot camp. And the very first thing out of her mouth, this is a writer downers.
Yeah.
Time doesn't heal all wounds. Your choices heal your wounds.
I like that. And Diana just said, oh my God, yes, movement is the future independence.
Yes.
Boom. Yes.
Right. And so now I'm becoming the teacher to my mother, who's now in her early 80s. And, she's watched me and modeled me, and actually, I'm going to say it. She actually mocked me in my early 40s. Yes. Well, because she came from a different background, a different demographic, a different upraising where taking care of yourself was selfish.
Yes.
That you always put other people's needs before your own. And mind you, she was a career nurse for 50 years.
Wow.
She didn't get the memo. She didn't have support or anything that offered her the ability to see that taking care of herself was equally important as taking care of everyone else.
Wow.
Right. And
just having more compassion for them, of like understanding, like, it doesn't feel good to be mocked, but that's all they knew and know, to have that. So having to see that and not taking it personally too.
Well, and we've had this conversation about standing in our truth. It's like, I knew for me, going to the gym, even if it was only a couple hours a week, that was my sanity. That was my gift to myself. Because we understand movement is as much psychological and emotional as it is physical.
Right.
And so I will preach it till the last breath I take about the importance of movement, how it moves energy out of your body, how it keeps things moving. Our bodies are made to move. We were given the gift of movement. And I'm not gonna keep harping on that because I know you have a lot of other questions, but I think you're starting to see some of the pieces of my personal puzzle
Definitely.
of what has been and what is present, and then what it will be part of the future as you follow along and enjoying the journey. We're all on a journey together, and we're not done. We're
Yes.
just not. And us women in midlife, we're just hitting our stride,
Yes.
right? We're just now getting some traction because of whether you've been a wife, a mother, a daughter, or whatever, a caretaker of someone else. Women have been traditionally in that role of the caregiver, caretaker for other people, whether it's
Yes.
husbands, whether it's kids, whether it's grandkids,
Right.
your own parents. And it's like, oh, there it is. The lessons just keep coming every single day, every moment, every second. There's an opportunity to discern what is the universe trying to teach me here.
Yes. And I love that you say that. What is the universe trying to teach? And what I also love that you say is we have a choice. We have a choice of how we can show up. And also, what I love the connection we have. I'm all about experience too. It's showing up, having that. I love silver sneakers when someone said, I could get off the ground and play with my grandchild. I could do this because I move my body. And we agree with it being so simple. You're watching TV. You could just sit here and move your body just while watching. It's a simple. Or I tell someone, walk from your kitchen to your bedroom, back and forth if you can't get outside. It's just exactly what you said. You have a choice, you can
Yeah.
show up, and you're always in a continuous journey. That's what I really love is that there's always change. There's always something, you're always evolving.
Yes. And whenever there's a setback, there's always something that you can do. And what we're doing a much better job now is asking for that help, asking for that support, because a lot of us have been, type A, people pleasers, perfectionistas, whatever. We've been white knuckling it through most of our lives as we thought that was a survival strategy, which that's exactly what it is. And
Yes.
that is a PTSD conditioning that we are starting to release, that
Mm-hmm.
trying to control everything, because clearly control is an illusion.
Yes. I love that.
There's very little we can control, especially outside of our own personal experience. And what we get to remember is when we pick our own heads up and start paying attention to the people around us, observing what they're going through. It's, part of, quieting the ego is recognizing, thanks to the four agreements, right? Everything is not
Yes.
personal.
Yes. I love that you say that with the foreground.
Yeah.
And Joe says she does a movement on Wednesday. I love that you show. And thank you, Joe and Diana, for showing up. And then my dad popped in and he said, I just love the topic. Thank you so much. I think we talk about, we don't really talk about it. We just kind of brush things like, oh, it's exercise. Oh, it's this. It's that. But you're right. It's choosing yourself. So, Chris, you mentioned about asking for help. And I know asking for help. So, if someone's going through all this, what are maybe some little nuggets that you can, because we're always afraid to ask. We don't want to ask for help. We can do it on our own and showing up. Where have you really learned to ask for help and to show up for yourself and to maybe help others who have a hard time asking for that need?
Well, you and I are in a similar sisterhood, and we're surrounded by a lot of amazing love and inclusivity and authenticity. And for my personal experience, it wasn't always that way. I've been involved in a lot of different women's groups for probably 28 years now. Um, I learned at an early age a survival tactic, if you will, out of necessity, that friends were the family I created for myself.
Mm.
Okay. I haven't forgotten that. There's some poignant things that you declare in your life, even at an early age, that stick with you and carry you through your adulting years. It was necessary for me to seek support outside of my family circle because there was no support there.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have all day to go into that conversation.
That's
I gave you
another
a really good clue early on about the mocking on taking care of myself, right?
Yeah.
So I already dropped a pretty big clue there. And so, even earlier in the women's groups that I was a part of, I still didn't really know who I was because of programming and conditioning. And then part of my journey was I was riddled with stress and anxiety. I didn't know how to regulate my nervous system. Thankfully I had fitness. It was my one thing, my one crutch, if you will,
Yeah.
but I needed more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. My world was a tornado and a hurricane rolled into one. And mentally, I didn't know how to manage that. So in our society, the path of least resistance is what is going to take away my pain the quickest. And
Mm-hmm.
that's usually going to a prescription medication to help you manage that.
Right.
And the blessing is it kept me from doing something detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in such a mental space, I had no one to turn to. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know there was support. I didn't want to go to a therapist. I didn't want to be right because there's such a stigma.
Right.
And thankfully now we're removing the stigma on the mental health, and mental health is everything.
Everything
is the beginning of how do I make a change? How do I cope? How do I make a different decision and be supported? We again. Medication is life or death, right? It is. It was for me. It was a life or death decision because there were times that I contemplated, but I would never follow through because I knew that wasn't my path. I knew that I had people, my kids especially, were dependent on me. I wasn't going to leave them with that. That was not my path. So how does a woman who's trying to handle the world on her shoulders, that's usually the easiest path is to go that way. And so there's no judgment. And I want to make that very clear. And my husband and I actually had a conversation about that this morning because he has some PTSD. Mm-hmm. And so from having done this work, doing this journey, releasing the dependency on the antidepressants by asking for support, for asking for guidance, for being shown other tools and modalities that can complement what I was already doing in the fitness space. So I just want to make it very clear that, sometimes people show up a certain way. They look like they have it all put together. Their body's amazing. They're energized. They're on the stage. They're doing all these great things and inspiring other people. But I knew in my integrity, I was a hot mess between the ears. It's like, this isn't who I am. This isn't who I want to be. Right. And so, I made the decision after 17 years, I lived on the antidepressants, and there were multiple times I tried to wean myself off, but I didn't have tools. I didn't know how to emotionally regulate myself. I didn't understand that it's okay. Feelings are meant to be felt. Yes. And I didn't have anybody to sit with through those icky feelings. And so now I know better. And I'm proud of the journey, but I'm also proud to speak on what it feels like when your body has been conditioned for that many years on a medication. It takes you everything, I'm going to speak from a nuclear medicine standpoint, right? I'm just going to nerd out a little bit.
I love that. That's what I love about you. Nerd out all you want. We need that.
Everything that we expose ourselves to, there's a cause and effect, right? Mm-hmm. So everything you put in your body has a positive effect. There's also could be a not positive effect, right? And that we understand about the body keeping the score now, all the stress, all the anxiety that is stored in our tissues, physiologically somehow, some way will show up later in life. Now we're learning that. Now we're talking very publicly about that. 17 years of a chemical substance, a foreign chemical substance being absorbed in my tissues and DNA, right? It's in your cell structure. And right, we understand the body's magnificent capacity to rebuild, reconstruct itself over time, right? Even our cells die every single day, but there's also rebirth every single day. And when we start making those positive shifts, whether it's going for a single walk, whether it's drinking a single glass of water, whether it's eating something that's real food, not something out of a container that's processed, on an atomic level, your body is responding in a positive way. And it's consistently doing that more often. And also at the same time, pulling away the toxicity things, the things that the body doesn't need to survive. Right. And so I expect, because things have a half-life, especially with like think of radiation, right? We can use science to explain
Yes.
the visual concept. Radioactive substances have a half-life, right? After a certain amount of time, they're half as effective as they were at the present.
Yes.
Well, a chemical substance also has a half-life.
Mm.
And when you're on something for 17 years, it's going to take the body time to process that out. And so for probably about the first year and a half to 2 years, I felt really awkward trying to walk without crutches, not having those emotional crutches. And yet I had tools, I had coaches, I had support, I had new podcasts, I had books and teachers and mentors. I was hungry for something different. And that's what I leaned towards as my healthy nutritional substitute to the pharmaceuticals,
Yeah.
right? And so giving myself time and space and patience and grace while I was navigating that process. And it's not for everybody. It's not for you know, I was grateful that I had my physicality.
Mm-hmm.
I was grateful that I had that to fall back on, because that's part of what helped me leap into emotional regulation, right? Reprogramming my brain, right? We understand our brains are neuroplastic. We can be reprogramming and connecting new neurons that have been broken through trauma throughout our lifetime. Education, right? That helps mend those pathways. Positivity, affirmations, music. There's so many modalities. Creativity
Mm-hmm.
was my gateway to clarity.
Oh, I love that.
Creativity shows up, and a lot of people don't allow themselves the art of the ability to create, whether
Mm.
it's art, whether it's cooking, whether it's floral design, or using our ways to self-express through creativity is a beautiful healing container.
It really is. Maybe you can expand on that because you have such an impact. We're talking about creating impact for the next generation. How can you impact them to show up that way and let someone live that joy, the creativity, blah, blah, can't talk, creativity come out of them and show, as you are, I feel like you're the sister that, someone never knew they needed that, or, just in general, bringing out those creativity and gifts. What are some nuggets that you could share with us?
I'm going to drop a couple writer downers here, because that's
Yeah.
just how my brain works. And
Yeah.
it's part of, I'm just giving you all this content that I share with clients and in public speaking and in groups all the time. A unexpressed soul is depressed.
Ooh, say that again. So everybody write this. This is a writer downer. One more time, Chris.
An unexpressed soul is depressed.
Oof.
And that's probably the most mic drop thing I could say for what's really going on in our society right now. Is there's a lot of people walking around, showing up, trying to be and do all the things, and they've been discouraged or are suppressing, have been suppressed, repressing their true souls and spirits to come alive, to experience and explore. Their intuition is so dampened, right? That little spark that's inside of them, they haven't given themselves permission to fan their own flames, right? They're so busy putting out for everyone else, and they're so busy, buying the next thing, clamoring for something to take away the pain, when their soul is screaming for self-expression.
Oof.
And we see it show up with our youth. We're seeing it show up with our adults. I'm seeing it in my own mother. I'm seeing, music. The good thing I know, and that this carried through, is my grandmother, my mother, myself. Music is my muse. Music is my connection, part of my connection that opens up that creativity and that imagination. It's that gateway between the imagination and the intuition. And creativity for me was the space. It was my learning laboratory. My studio was my learning laboratory.
Ooh, I love that. Learning laboratory.
Well, we have to be the scientist.
Yes.
Right? All all the greats out there, all the wisdom that comes from, teachers and poets and philosophers. It's all been said before. Everything I'm saying is not new. It's just coming from my perspective in my teaching. But allowing ourselves the space to open up and create. And, I started a new business model in 2019, and I was putting out beautiful, sparkly products. Joe's on here. She knows, I took Swarovski crystals and I embellish things to make the world a beautiful place. But here's a quote on my website: "Those who bring beauty to the world cannot keep it from themselves."
Ooh, one more time for the world to hear that. That's a really great quote. You need to make
those who bring beauty to the world cannot keep it from themselves. However, I was blocking that reciprocity. I recognized when I was sitting in my chair one day, and I love to create things and give it away. I never would create for myself. I didn't see myself as worthy to create for me. I myself was blocking my own ability to receive a PTSD conditioned response from my youth growing up.
Wow.
Okay. So these are things that I started unraveling as I was weaning. My body was releasing the chemical dependency. I was starting to find myself. And by connecting with others, hearing their story, it would jog something in my past. It's like, oh my gosh, that's familiar. Right. And so that's the beauty of this connection company that you and I are, connection community that we are involved with. That was part of the silver lining. Everything's happened on purpose. Everything has happened for me. The pandemic, sitting through connecting with hundreds of women through using technology. That's what we had to work with. What can I do? What am I willing to do? I'm willing to sit on a Zoom and connect with another human soul in a different time zone multiple times a day to stay connected, because I knew the more I connected with another human soul was a connection to myself. I was learning how to connect.
One more time. I think that's really a strong statement. Could you say that one more time?
Being willing to connect with a human soul allowed me to also connect with me, because we're all mirrors of each other. And it also allowed me to tease out pieces of my story that were familiar or I needed to edit, right? We talked about editing those stories. Things that I found in other individuals that triggered me. I didn't make it about them. I took it on as like, what is that trying to teach me? What is that telling me about me? What is it that I need to or get to alchemize that energy, alchemize that emotion?
Ooh, yes. And my sister showed up. Stephanie, she says, I love that. Feels so good to create. Sometimes the hardest part is starting for me, but once I do it, it feels great. Thank you, Sissy. Thank you for showing up and being here. And yes, connection is so important. And it's so beautiful to connect with someone, because you get to really, as what you said, kind of mirror someone else, show up for them and see their true self. So.
But, I want to be respectful of the time. So there's so much more that I can unpack, but I want to give your audience these 5 words to sit with, to see how they resonate. And these are my 5 values that I've teased out over the last 6 years. This expansive growth, the ability to have this conversation with you really has only been in a very short segment of my adult life.
I mean, that's so mind-blowing to me, just because I feel you have so much wisdom. And thank you for showing up here. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being honest. And thank you for being who you are online and offline authentically. And I think telling your story helps others being able to connect and show up. So I would love for you to share your little nuggets with us.
Well, it's never too late.
Right.
You always have a choice to make a different decision, and one that honors you and honors your soul and spirit. And everybody may not like that, and that's okay. When we've conditioned ourselves to make everybody else comfortable, when we decide to make a different choice and make a decision, be prepared that some people might not like that. And that's happened several times in my life. And I've had to embrace that. And that's why I lean on the communities that I've built It's a survival strategy. It's a success strategy. It's a sustainability strategy to build connection with other human beings in lots of different ways in serving and giving back. So the 5 words that I promised that are my values, courage is the first one.
Courage. Woo.
Right? The courage to change, the courage to make a different decision, the courage to go boldly in a new direction, and trust that that's what your intuition is telling you. Your intuition speaks to you silently. Are you listening to the nudges and the whispers? The second one is connection. As you know, connection has been a huge connection to other people, connection to other organizations, connecting to myself. That way I can show up in the fullest self-expressed version of myself and know that no one's judging me, and I'm not leaving anything. There is no energy that could be construed as anything but pure light and love.
100%. That is you. Like, if there was a description in the dictionary of what it is, that is you, Chris.
Yeah. And now I've lost my own words.
I lost.
Courage, connection. Well, creativity has to be one of them. Allow yourself time to be creative. Allow yourself time to explore things that have interest you. Be curious. Curiosity is a superpower, right? Your curiosity is your intuition also speaking to you.
Yeah.
And curiosity didn't kill the cat. I'm sorry. You know what? We have 9 lives.
Yes.
And you will always land on your feet.
100%.
When you learn to trust yourself and trust that you're being divinely guided and you are supported.
Yes.
And even if you think you're alone, you're really not. There's people that are walking on a very similar journey. Ask for help, ask for support. Contribution.
Oof. Nice.
Is a value. And I used to think, what's the other word? Significance. And I toyed around with that. To me, significance, that's subjective.
Yeah.
That speaks of ego.
Right.
And so I want to make very clear that everything that I do is not from ego. It's from a place of love and huge love, huge intention of love. And so contribution to me just lands better.
Right.
And compassion.
I agree. I agree with that full. And
I gave you more C's.
I think that's why we connect so well, is the way we can show up, the true authenticity, the way we see each other is true, real, and raw. So we're going to have to close it up. Is there any last little nugget? Is there any way that you are putting out a program, anything that someone can work with you? How can the world get to have a Chris in their life?
Well, programs are under construction. For now, if you're interested to have a one-on-one, how can I help you align better with your intuition and really show up and be in your spotlight? I can be in the spotlight. I'm like the Wayne Gretzky with my other clients. I set them up.
Yes, you do. Yes,
right.
You do.
So I'm just a piece of that equation. I'm a co-creator. I'm here to help co-create, helping healers and teachers, coaches really show up and stand in their power, because there's always work to be done. Even coaches need coaches. And so I'm kind of like a trainer's trainer. I'm a coach's coach. but I can see the blind spots, and that's what a good teacher does. That's what a good coach is. A good teacher expands what you think you know. A good coach helps you see the blind spots that you can't see. And so we all have, I am who I say I am. I have coaches. I have people that I lean into, so that I am catching my own blind spots, because we can't know it all. We can't see it all. And life is happening so quickly. Things are changing rapidly, and it's a lot. So keeping the nervous system calm and asking for help.
Perfect.
Mic drop.
Yes. All right, sister. Thank you so much. Excuse me. My heart is so happy. I love you. And Chris will be back on. I know it. To be continued. Thank you guys for being here. I'm Elana. You can reach me at ef11c@gmail.com or on my website, yourhealthvibes.com. I'm Elana. and joining here bi-weekly, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time, and to begin raising your vibration, heart, body, mind, and soul. Thank you for being here on New Streaming Network, home of Going Solo, Going Bold, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. And we will see you again in a few weeks. Bye for now. Thank you.